Listen.
Welcome to Nintendo Voice Chat, episode 377. Per Schneider is out at a top secret meeting with the King of Germantown, so he's not here this week, which means that I, Zach Ryan, am your host for this week's episode. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be chatting about this week, shall we?
Yo-no.
That's Sam over there. We'll get to him later. This week, we're going to talk about Star Fox 2, Sam's review.
Yo-no.
Yes, we will talk about Yo-no. We're going to talk about what's up with the Nintendo World Championship. And this little game's coming out here in about 15 days called Super Mario Odyssey.
All right.
Talk a little bit about that as well.
Mario,
Let me introduce our cast, if I may. Today, I'm being joined by Sam 5.0 Claiborne.
going?
There he is, right there.
Yo-no is short for Yo-noid.
This is my big son, Jonathan Dornbush.
Charmed, I'm sure. Hey, Dad.
And in his triumphant return, Brian Altano.
Good to be back.
Welcome
Thanks
back.
for having me.
We miss you. We love you.
Miss you too. I love you all.
Right on.
Let's talk.
So before we get started, just a friendly reminder that if you're listening to Nintendo Voice Chat and you like what you hear, you can leave us a review on iTunes. 5-star reviews only, please. Just like Sandwich Artist did when he said, "Every week I can barely wait to hear what's going on with the big N." I'm assuming that's Nintendo. Nintendo Voice Chat is by far the best way to keep the updates going on all things Nintendo. With Pear in the captain's chair, how can you lose? That's a rhetorical question. You can't. I'm sorry, Sandwich Artist. I'm in the captain's chair today, and it's like going to just be a freewheeling episode.
Does that mean we can lose?
That means everybody wins.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that works.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Nintendo news this week.
The big N could also mean the Witch King of Angmar, the final and greatest Nazgul challenger to the...
I'm almost positive that that's what Sandwich Artist meant when he said big N.
Big N.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Nintendo news this week. First things first, we owe you guys an apology. The upcoming Splatfest here in the U.S. is actually Werewolves versus Vampires, not that toilet paper caper we talked about last week.
Which there is only one right answer for.
Yes, that's true. But as you can see, we've brought it up on screen here in case you didn't know what a vampire or a werewolf looks like. What the hell's going on with that werewolf?
What's going
They're
on with that
cosplaying
vampire?
as a werewolf.
So yes, we were mistaken. The news came out about the U.S. Splatfest after the fact that we had recorded the show. So we talked.
You issuing a correction?
Yeah, we talked ad nauseum about which way we fold toilet paper, what kind of ply we like to use. It was a very, very long, very personal episode about this toilet paper fiasco. But as it turns out, this week this upcoming Splatfest is Werewolves versus Vampires. The toilet paper was for EU only. And then in Japan, the Japanese Splatfest is Power versus Stamina, which is a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I prefer werewolves for
it's like
In what context?
It's
Yeah.
like RPG stats? Is that what I'm
Is it like
assuming?
exercise?
Yeah. I mean,
probably
it's a very specific Dark Souls build conversation. Do you go power or do you go stamina?
Fair.
Do you think there's only a very narrow wedge in time in which werewolves would have won out over vampires?
Like the night?
undoubtedly.
Like maybe the year Teen Wolf came out?
The very narrow time.
Well, vampires are night creatures as well.
Sometimes. I mean, they can live in their house during the day, but a werewolf
Werewolves, not
can't be in a
swearwolves.
house during the day.
It's
He's
true.
a man.
What if
That's
the
man
werewolf,
time.
What if there's like a fake moon indoors?
Like a painting of a moon? Are you thinking werewolves can fall for stuff like Wile E. Coyote falls for like a painting of a tunnel?
Potentially.
I can only assume that would be the case.
Okay, I don't know about that.
Werewolves, strong, not that smart.
That's just a regular man that turned into a wolf. It's
So
not like he's
this-
a dumb guy.
Hold on, this brings up a
Or
bigger
woman.
topic. Is Werewolves versus Vampires, this spooky Splatfest, enough to entice you guys to come back around to Splatoon 2? Because personally, I've sort of dropped off. I know that makes me a bad Nintendo boy, but I haven't jumped in on a Splatfest. I missed one when we were at PAX.
Yeah.
And that to me was kind of like, well, if I'm going to miss an entire Splatfest, I'll probably have to sit a few out here. So I don't know. I like the idea of spooky Splatfest. I'll definitely go Team Vampires. They have better superpowers. What do you guys think?
I think it's going to be mostly like content that will bring you back this Splatoon at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think
Do you
like,
think if there's like spooky Halloween items that you could procure, like the like Overwatch has a Halloween event right now.
Yeah,
they have
where
a bunch
there's
of
tons of
funny
skins,
Halloween
yeah.
costumes.
Yes, yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? I retract my statement. If they did something I'm truly deeply passionate about, like pepperoni versus pineapple
Yeah.
for pizza, I'd have to come back and rep the anti-pineapple. Of
course.
Okay.
Because it's a horrible thing.
But neither of these
Shouldn't be allowed.
Neither of these mythical monsters are enough to persuade you.
No,
to,
not enough.
Jump back in and do a good splat.
I believe pineapple exists.
Pineapple does exist. It's
Unfortunately.
yeah. It's mostly legendary in most parts, but yes, that's true. There is pineapple. Now, I personally would love an opportunity to win some kind of Splatoon gear that would make you look like a werewolf, and then you just run
Yes,
around
I
that
agree.
game playing as a crazy werewolf?
Yeah, just a
would
wet,
be awesome.
painty wolf.
That sounds good to me.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be back for it. I've stopped playing regularly in between Splatfests, which I was doing when it first came out. But for now, like the Splatfests always make me jump in for at least a couple more days.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
And then I'll play residually for a day or two after.
Okay.
Cool.
So I'll jump in for this. I'm Team Werewolf because one of my favorite songs is Werewolf Bar Mitzvah.
Spooky, scary.
Boys becoming men.
Yeah, men becoming wolves. Now, listen, here's the thing about Splatoon 2 that I worry will affect my enjoyment of this upcoming Splatfest, and that's there's a lot of these competitive type games that I love to play at the outset. Like, I'm sure if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I've been talking ad nauseum about Destiny.
Yep.
I've been playing Destiny 2 a lot, and part of the reason that I keep up with this is that I want to be able to continue to play in the PvP matches and stuff like that. So I wonder if I've taken enough time off of Splatoon 2 that I'm going to go back to it and just be terrible at it. Is that something that deters you guys from picking it back up?
A little bit, but I think you're kind of undermining your ability. I think you'll.
Oh no,
get
I'm
back to
terrible
there.
at games.
No, well that's okay,
That's-
but
no,
I
that's
think you
true.
can get back to mediocre. I don't think you'll be great.
We have faith
but I
in
think you can. I think you can slowly climb back.
That's
to
what it
mediocre.
says on my business card. Getting back to mediocre.
What's the Splatfest in Destiny 2 this month?
The Splatfest in Destiny 2 is some kind of iron Galahorn or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Versus what?
Yeah.
Versus
What did you vote for?
a copper grenade launcher or some crazy stuff. That's a bunch of space wizards jumping around.
That's
you know?
and all you need. For me, the thing about Splatoon is even when you're not great at it, I think there's still some enjoyment out of it because you're always doing something to help. Just always, as long as you're shooting out paint, like you're always helping.
That's true.
Sure.
That's a
And
good
so
way.
I think
Yeah.
even when you're not great, and especially when you're just learning the game, you still feel like you're contributing enough. That's what usually keeps me after it's been a month since I've played. Like that'll keep me back going in because I'm like, okay, well I did all right for this match. But
Yeah, and
If
I
you
think
think about it that way with any first-person shooter, you're always contributing to one of the teams.
sure.
Yeah.
No matter what you do.
Yeah.
If you die a lot, you're contributing
Usually to the other
team.
team.
Yeah,
that's
that's
usually what
true.
I'm doing.
You're always doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that at its core, Splatoon is a game that is not crazy complex mechanically. So like, yeah, it's kind of like riding a bike. I'm sure you could pick it up really quickly and get back into it. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, once I've played a few matches, I totally remember how to feel, like how to
Right.
move, how to navigate, So we'll see.
Yeah,
But
I think you'll be fine.
I'm definitely going to jump back in just because I love all things Halloween themed.
Yeah, that's. I can't really decide between these two things.
It's a tough call for you.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you love Draculas and you love werewolves.
That's it. That's really where I'm.
If
torn.
you do it on a purely serial basis, you have Count Chocula,
Yeah.
and then Fruit Brute.
Count Chocula.
Oh, yeah,
a
Count
million
Chocula.
miles.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not even a contest.
Well, and Fruit Brute, you can't even really get to easily.
Fruit
Yeah.
Brute rhymes though, so don't count him out.
If video cameras didn't
prefer
exist, I would eat Count Chocula for breakfast every day. Every single day.
Well, you guys, speaking of things that rhyme, there's a couple of demos coming out for the Switch this week, and that's Spelunker Party and Oceanhorn. Neither of those really rhyme.
Yeah.
But it is exciting that we're
was a
getting,
segue.
we saw Octopath Traveler
Yep.
last month. I love that Nintendo is sort of bringing back the idea of like the game demo on the Switch. We don't see a lot of demos dropping for other platforms, and I think the Switch is a really cool one to do just that because there is this sort of deluge of games every week. More on that later, obviously. We've got a whole list to talk about. But
You guys
I
know what the
missed that
Spelunker
era.
game is?
yeah, so Spelunker is actually a remake of a game that Spelunky was based off of. And Pear was very excited about this because the original Spelunker is a European game and Pear is like a very European man. So he was very excited to represent Europe in a way that encompasses video games.
Yeah.
There's a really funny historical significance to that game. That's that it's the most famous early example of a kusoge, which means crap game.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
It's the better version of crap. One of my favorite words ever in Japanese.
Okay.
And what that means is that there's like this games that are so hard and so crappy that they're actually of significance and people like remember them fondly.
Oh,
And a
interesting.
kusoge game, Spelunker is like that's the quintessential one.
So
Okay.
E.T. is one of our Kuso games.
Exactly. Yeah,
Interesting.
we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
We know about it, and and it's just a part of the zeitgeist for
Right,
being
right.
bad.
Interesting.
And Spelunker is that.
But this
So
new
now
game,
you get to play with 4 people.
yeah, I was gonna say this new game has this co-op ability, and the demo showcases a lot of the 4-player co-op stuff.
Yeah.
And Pear was trying to convince me to play it with him and a couple people around the office, but he wanted all 4 of us to play on the Switch screen, which didn't make sense to me. That's a very small screen.
no.
But he said that all 4 people can play, and it totally runs fine.
Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
It's kind of got like a obviously it's got like a very similar vibe to Spelunky. Because Spelunky straight up aped this game.
Spelunky's like a really fast, fun version.
Yeah.
Spelunker is like really methodical and slow, and you're just exploring for treasures, room after room.
It's a lot more
and you can
punishing,
see
too.
that in this. It's like a bunch of ropes, a bunch of mines, and you're just exploring. So this is just like a twist on that.
Yeah, I played this demo when it first launched on the Japanese eShop a couple months ago, which was interesting because I had set up a Japanese eShop account to download the game Kamiko.
Okay.
And I saw it on there through some weird navigation because it was like, I don't read Japanese and there's no like Google Translate on your Nintendo Switch. So I downloaded it and I was just like, I don't understand this. This is obtuse. It feels like a sort of like up-res port of a mobile game, which I think it might have some roots in. I'm not sure. And I kind of liked it. So I think I'll hold out for the retail version on the North America eShop and give it a shot. But it's interesting. It's weird to play after something like SteamWorld Dig, which is a just like damn near flawless game about spelunking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad it's here.
Yeah, I'm still playing the hell out of SteamWorld Dig. I really love that game.
You almost done with that game?
Who can tell? There's no way of knowing that.
I'm ready to go back and just break all the rocks I didn't
I've
break.
actually been going pretty slowly and methodically through
I
it
just did
because
that big
I
puzzle
love-
where it's like that guy's special hoard in the temple. And you have to go and
So
find.
I just went back to the temple and started digging around in there. So I got kind of confused. I set the game down for a few days and then I sort of forgot where I was supposed to go.
Right.
So I was digging around one temple and then I was like, oh right, there's a whole other temple over here. that
I'm doing the same
neglected
as
to
you said
explore.
you were doing, though, of like taking it slowly.
Yeah.
Just because as I'm digging further down, I'm like, oh no, I probably missed 7 things around me, and I need to slowly figure out where those all are. And I feel like it rewards you for doing that super well.
I'm having a hell of a time completing a lot of the challenge rooms.
Yeah.
You know, because like you finish them or what you think is the objective there, and then you walk out of them and you don't see that little green check mark, and it just drives me crazy.
Yep,
I have to
you gotta
go
go
back
back.
in and try and
Gotta
figure
go back
out.
in
Yeah,
there.
Pear said that the 100% run was maddening, but
Yes.
because he did that.
Yeah, I have as well.
I'm working on that.
Okay, the other demo is Oceanhorn, which to say is a Zelda-like is right on the nose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just Wind Waker from a top-down perspective. We talked about this a few months ago on the show when it launched on Switch.
Yeah.
It's interesting now that we're getting a demo for it.
Yeah, this game sold 1 million units across all platforms, which I think is incredibly impressive. But it was also launched on a bunch of systems where people were starved for a Zelda-like. I don't think it's very Wind Waker-esque outside of like sailing and some of the art direction in the towns, because the moment-to-moment gameplay is very, very rudimentary. Like the combat is simplistic, the puzzles are pretty simple, the top-down perspective changes almost everything. That said, I think there is some charm here, and I think there's something there. If you're looking for a top-down 2D Zelda-style game, there's another one coming up this week that we'll talk about in a bit, but yeah, check out the demo. I think it's perfect that you can play this game and be like, not for me, instead of just spending the money on it and going like, oh, this is not the Zelda I wanted, or this is.
Absolutely.
That's exactly, So that's exactly the thing, because this is a game that has been on my list of like to try games since it launched on Switch.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a Zelda fan, people are always saying like, oh, Oceanhorn's a really great way to like kill the time between your next Zelda adventures, right? Wherever the DLC is coming. So this is awesome that there's a demo, because I haven't convinced myself to like take the plunge and put the money down for it. So it's nice to kind of get a justification or not. So
Yeah.
And like you were saying, I'm just glad that's a trend Nintendo's bringing back, because for me in the 360 PS3 era, like demos were the thing that made me buy games.
Yeah,
I
totally.
could just download 5 demos a week, and maybe I'd like one of these games, maybe I wouldn't. The reason I bought BioShock was because I played the first 20 minutes of that game via demo and was like, I need to know what happens.
Dude, the reason I bought Resident Evil 4 is because the Resident Evil 4 demo on GameCube of the first town area that ends with like the church
chainsaw
bells
man,
ringing and the chainsaw is something I played through like 200 times.
Yeah.
You know, the GameCube era was actually surplically good for demos, despite the fact that
You got those tiny demo discs.
yeah,
on the
little
second
demo
part
discs.
of your game.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, a lot of them. Metroid
the-
Prime 2 had that, so it was like really cool. And
Yep.
then playing that early, and then sometimes the demo disc would even have like old Zelda games on it and stuff like that. They did a
I feel like I had a demo disc that had like Rogue Leader or one of the Rogue games on it.
I could see that.
As well as just a bunch of other things like that.
Animal
So,
Crossing came with maybe Metroid Prime or something. I can't
Yes. Yeah, it was cool.
Greatest demos. That's a good feature that we should do.
Oh, yeah.
Let me write
yeah,
that down.
yeah.
You know that Tomb Raider. You remember PlayStation had the six game discs or whatever.
Well, they also came with OPM, right? The official PlayStation.
Yeah, they would have.
Yeah. Everybody had them. I remember everybody played Tomb Raider that way first.
Yeah.
That first level of Tomb Raider. Funny.
Speaking of things that I'd like to demo, Nyko announced a portable Switch dock that I would like to give a try to because I travel a lot, and this is actually a really cool looking little device. It's smaller than the official dock, which I think is pretty cool.
Is that the only thing that makes it portable besides the kind of fold up?
Well, I mean, what else do you want in portability? Like it's smaller
I didn't
and,
really
and
know.
it's
Like, it
like
still
very
looks
compact.
like it's
It folds
kind
up.
of it's a
Yeah, but I
bigger
mean,
device.
it's basically looks like, you can see it now. It basically looks like a little tablet that you just set your Switch on top of, which I kind of like the way that this looks. It's
that
pretty
angle
cool.
looks a lot better than the kickstand angle.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Hopefully
exactly.
it'll be.
Wow,
Whoa.
very nice.
Barrett. Good.
Yeah, so that's another good point, Sam. Like I hadn't even considered that this is a much better viewing angle if you're on a plane or something, because like you can take this out without charging it.
You would have to have
set
the
it down.
dock not working for that.
Dr. Octopus.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. But it does come with an HDMI pass-through and a power supply, so it ostensibly you could pack this up in your backpack in your Switch case with you, and then take it on the road, and then you're not always playing it as a handheld. I mean, I don't really know how
cheaper than
easy
the
it is to
official dock
patch it
too,
in
right?
in a hotel. Yeah, it's half the price. It's $50.
I mean, I travel a ton, and the dock is always the thing that I want to grab at the last minute, but it's also the thing I don't want to like unplug from my television and everything and pull out the AC adapter and all that. And in their product display video for this thing, they show it getting tucked away into like the netting in the back of one of your standard issue Nintendo Switch cases, which is really cool. Just the idea of being able to chuck that in my bag with my iPhone charger and being able to play Switch games on a big screen TV is really nice, especially because when you get somewhere, if you have a Pro Controller or something, or even a game that uses split Joy-Cons, you can play 2 players on your TV. And that's really leaning into the magic and the portability of the system, which I think the dock loses a lot of.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it is great that you can jump from TV to handheld with the Nintendo Switch, and this just makes that a little bit easier. So we're getting one in the office next week. We'll be able to like go through our full sort of rundown on NVC. We're probably going to open it up on Up at Noon, maybe shoot a video on it. So
cool. Yeah, I really like the idea of having something like this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So like just this size, and then an additional like your Pro Controller, and you have your full console set up.
You have
and you just
everything.
throw this in your backpack and go. Like I think that's really cool.
You think about that versus like traveling with a PS4 or an Xbox One. It's like it's night and day.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Does anybody remember Super Mario Run? You remember that little gem for the old cell phone there?
Not a fan.
Yeah? You didn't like it?
No.
I thought it was very clever.
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was very fun.
Well, good news for you, Sam. Now there's even more of it for
know
you to
there is.
play. Yeah.
Great
not
news
play
for you,
for him.
Zach. I put probably 5 hours into this game over the last few days, and
Have
I
you
did
really?
not expect to do that at all.
crazy.
Really?
I got a notification from Nintendo saying Mario Run was updated
From the Nintendo?
from the Nintendo.
Hey, Brian, it's
What's
the
it like?
Nintendo.
It's us, the Nintendo.
New stuff.
I would say in terms of 2D Marios, it's closest to the Super Luigi
cool.
game for
Yeah,
Wii U.
those
Oh,
are
yes.
great.
In that it's actually almost kind of WarioWare-esque in that the levels are maybe 10, 12 seconds long.
Interesting.
And the primary objective is to collect 3 coins in each one, which is pretty standard issue for old school Mario fans.
Like Luigi too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And get to the goalpost. And sometimes the goalpost is just a pipe at the end. And sometimes it's just like a flag, It's not just always, it doesn't always end the same way. You play 10 levels in a row. And at the end, you're sort of judged on how many coins you get. And they kick you a bunch of sort of points allotting how well you did. And then from there, you can open up question blocks that unlock items for your like overworld Toad Kingdom minigame or whatever.
I love that little kingdom.
Yeah.
I like
are you
building
pretty
that. Yeah.
involved in that?
I am. I collected almost everything that I could for a while. Then I took a break and played, real games. No, just kidding. But I keep coming back to this game because it is like a really fun, really quick, bite-sized Mario game to play on my phone. Like I think they kind of nailed
any
it.
others to play right now.
Well, I mean,
Nothing else coming out this fall.
yeah, no, that's for sure. But I mean, sometimes you're not on your Switch. Sometimes you're just on your phone, and I think it's really awesome that's there. And I really hope to see more offerings from Nintendo on the mobile front because I think they've done a good job so far.
Y'all talked about Mario Run forever when it came out. I remember those episodes, but I will say, just sort of in closing on this, that I think that as a game that set out to create a like one-handed Mario experience, it is tremendously successful in that regard. And I am always constantly surprised when I pick it back up and it's, I'm flicking my screen and like holding down to run. Like, I think it's really brilliant that way.
Yeah, I came around on it hard when I first played it. My first impressions on this show were like, I don't like it. It doesn't do this well, doesn't do this well. And then I put more time into it and I was like, this is about as perfect of a like one finger Mario game you can make on a phone. Like, I'm super happy with it.
This update outlines new courses, new playable characters, and a new feature that lets you listen to your favorite music while you play. So my question to you guys is, what's the best substitute Mario music?
Probably just
Bulls on Parade by
Bulls?
Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
Weird choice.
Yeah.
Marching band music?
A marching band playing Louie Louie.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's very specific. Brian, I feel like you'd probably just be listening to like Wu-Tang or something.
Yeah, Wu-Tang, or just go download my albums.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll plug my stuff.
Shameless self-promotion.
Yes, they're free. I'm getting so much money for them.
Give him all those $0. Okay, and then our last bit of news here before we move on. That was a great transition when I just said okay and then started talking about the next story. Friend of the show, Bill Trinan, he did an interview with Business Insider and talked a little bit about what Nintendo learned from the Wii U. And not a huge story, but I did think that there was a couple interesting things to pull out here. One of the quotes that he has was, if you look at the Wii U hardware system, just the system menu itself, the time that it took to boot that system up to get into gameplay was something that was a frustration for a lot of players early on and actually became a hindrance. And I hadn't really stopped to consider just how easy it is to pick up your Switch and play until I read this quote. And I thought that was very, very smart of him to talk about this in particular, because in an era like this generation of gaming, we have rest mode on PS4 and Xbox where we, it's a simple press of a button and we're right back into a game. And the Switch, same deal. You can hit your power button, you hit whatever button you want 3 times, and then you're back into the game that you were playing last. And I think
a lot of games you don't have to update for.
Right.
You can save your update for later and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I think
it's a big problem that the Switch solved, that like no system solved since cartridges.
Right.
Every system got worse and worse with starting up, and load times are really bad on everything. And those are like these things that we kind of all accept as part of video gaming now. But that's stupid.
Yeah.
Like if you're making a hardware that's dedicated to playing a video game, it should start immediately, and it shouldn't have load times, and it should be, possibly easy to move around. So there's all these things that go into design. Just like, don't make a PC.
Right.
Make
Right.
something else. And I think the Switch is not a PC.
No.
And I think that's so awesome.
I can definitively say with authority that the Switch is not a PC.
Although
Heard
a
it here
bunch of
first.
PC ports sneak onto the Switch, and
That's
you
true.
see mouse cursors in them because they forgot. Shame on you.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
There's also been a couple of times where you'll unlock achievements or like trophy stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, nah, that's not supposed to be there.
Somebody screen capped the thing in Stardew Valley where it was like, right click the corn to, and it's like, you can't do that. I've been a big handheld gamer my entire life. And one of the things I noticed that happened around the Game Boy Advance era,
I think it was the SP that first allowed you to like close the clamshell.
that was awesome. And I really loved that. That was
that's
actually one of the first times. But I started noticing that with a lot of third-party games or games that were ported to handheld, people kind of forgot that you were playing a handheld game.
Yeah.
And they would front load the start the title screen with like 6 or 7 menus. And so when you're in a bus stop and you're like, I want to flip this thing open and play like for 2 minutes, you would actually have to get through 60 seconds of nonsense. And it's like, there's that saying like, get to the fireworks factory, like just get to the part where all the fireworks are blowing up and the factory is no longer
made
there.
famous by Milhouse.
Yes, it's true. And so when you skip that, it's kind of a problem, especially with handheld gaming. Now, the Wii U did eventually get that sort of like quick boot mode, which made it easier to jump into a game. But still, then it's not anywhere near like you can be on the fight with Ganon in Breath of the Wild. Pause
Instantly.
it, pick up your system, leave for 3 days, come back, hit the button, and you're right back in.
Well, I think I think that sense of immediacy is what the Switch at its core is all about. It's getting back into the gameplay, it's dropping it into your dock and having it immediately show up on your TV. That sort of instant gratification is something that I feel like Nintendo
It's
has
integral
built
to that idea.
this system on, and this quote is saying exactly that.
Yeah, 'cause I think
that's what I thought was the most interesting part about it.
any slower and you might reach for your Switch less, and the fact that it's so snappy is the reason I think, or one of the reasons we keep going back. So yeah.
Also, what a bunch of babies that we can't wait 20 seconds to play our
Have
video
you
games.
have you fully drained recently? Like, it's shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the first time that happened to me, I was like, "Is my Switch broken?" Like, I wasn't used to it having to like give me a charge symbol and like do all this other stuff. It's kind of funny.
I try to make it a habit of fully drain right before we record this show every week.
That's a pee joke.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about all these games that are coming out.
All right.
In a segment that I like to call Nintendo Switch Has No Games. I'm just kidding. That's not a real segment. Okay, I'm going to read off a bunch of these games, so stick with me as I announce the following releases. I looked at the wrong camera. Neon Chrome, Unbox, Newbie's Adventure, ACA Neo Geo, the King of Fighters 95, Don't Knock Twice. That's a sex game. Yono and the Celestial Elephants, which I know you've been playing.
Yes.
The sequel.
You've been playing?
Yono.
I just downloaded it. I haven't started, but I'm excited to.
I know you even invite this guy on. John, tell us about it.
Yono is a video game developed by one person, which is kind of amazing. And it's a sort of top-down isometric game starring a celestial elephant who has to go around these worlds, talk to human characters, and interact with puzzles and use cool things like his trunk to inhale water, spit it on fire. He can ram into things. He can basically solve puzzles, open up treasure chests, upgrade, move blocks around. It's a very simplistic game, and I would say it's a notch above a children's game. But I really like it because it doesn't push back a lot, and I think the puzzles are just smart enough that they make you feel accomplished when you solve them. Some of the issues I am having with the game is that it gets a little difficult to line up the elephant with a block that he needs to push or a character he needs
Classic
to talk to.
conundrum. Yeah.
Classic elephant problems, right? But with this being a video game, ultimately you would want that to work. It's a little clunky in that regard, but other than that, I do really like it. There are different costumes that you can get for your elephant. One of them is a green tunic with a hood.
Huh. Wonder where they came up with
Yeah, not hiding that at all. And I would say it's a Zelda light, and that I do dig it a little bit more than something like Oceanhorn. And it's just really adorable. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So this game's out now. Go check it out. I wish there was a demo for it. Watch some videos and see if you like it.
Well, according to Oceanhorn strategy, there will be a demo for this game in about 3 months.
Yeah, perfect.
So moving on, we've got Square Boy vs. Bullies Arena Edition, Tohu Kabuto 5 Burst Battle,
Finally.
Rogue Trooper Redux. Or Redo? How do you guys say that?
Redux.
Yeah. Putty Pals. And then over on the 3DS, we've got Little Adventure on the Prairie. Good. And Etrian Odyssey 5 Beyond the Myth, which I'm sure our friend Jared Petty is very excited about.
Oh, yeah,
He
for
loves
sure.
the Etrian Odyssey.
I like Tetris Odyssey 4.
Yeah? Well, good news for you, Sam. Now
It's
there's
about
a fifth
making
one.
maps.
And then we've got probably my favorite game title of the week.
This one's so
great.
good.
Yeah.
88 Heroes, 98 Heroes Edition.
Yeah, I'll talk about this one really quick.
It's not a typo?
88 Heroes is one of those games that I put on my PS4 a couple months ago and looked behind me, and all of a sudden there was like 7 people in the
There's 98 Heroes.
Yeah. So 88 Heroes is a game about 88 different characters who are all completely ridiculous caricatures or sort of nods to pop culture characters. And their effective goal is to, one by one, reach a sort of door at the end of a stage. Now, each stage is different. It's full of like traps and perils and enemies. They're all trying to kill you.
I remember this game now.
They each have one superpower that might not get you much further towards your goal,
Yeah,
but
and
you
you-
only use one.
You
And it's
die
randomized.
constantly.
And then another one.
Yeah.
And it's randomized, right?
It's randomized.
Okay.
So, and then you do run out of heroes. So I'm assuming, and I've only been playing it on Switch for a little bit, which by the way, it's a perfect fit for that platform
Yeah,
because
it's
it's so quick and snappy. I'm assuming 98 heroes means they added 10 more heroes.
Yeah,
Although I haven't found them yet.
The description is like 88 heroes and 10 of their friends are along for the ride now.
So just like 10 normal dudes? Like it's 88
I hope
heroes
so.
and then
Just
just
hope
like
you don't
yeah.
spawn them.
And then
Yeah,
just
I mean,
Jeff.
there are
an accountant,
characters.
school teacher.
There's an armadillo that's
Crossing
based on a Ninja Turtle. There's this dude that looks like Ash from Ash vs. Evil Dead. There's a snake that controls like the snake from Snake.
Oh.
That's just like janky, like and you're like, he's not platforming, he's like climbing on the frame. Like it's just really fun. It's really creative and really clever. Yeah, give this one a look. It's really special.
We all thought it looked really cool when you were playing it, so we can definitely
super
endorse
fun.
that one.
That's really awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing you play it. It completely didn't make the connection that was the game.
Yeah, no, totally.
Up next, Tiny Barbarian DX. Now this game, you and I have talked about this morning. We've both been playing a little bit of it.
I love it.
It's super cool. Sam, have you played this at all? Because I feel like this would be
I'm
Out
super
of
curious
these games,
about
that's
this.
what I don't know.
I feel like this would be right up your alley. It feels to me, Pear described it to me, you can see it now. Pear described it to me as a 12-bit game. somewhere between
Yeah.
the NES and the
That
Super
happens.
NES.
A lot of people use like the big pixels and they make pretty stuff, but then they use like a lot more colors than the NES could display.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Or-
the vibe that I'm getting from this game, granted I'm only like 3 levels in, it feels to me like it's taking hints from Castlevania
Yes.
and Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
I feel like
Oats.
Shovel Knight in the way that it's got this very comical, sort of charming presentation. Like, I don't know if you'll see it in this gameplay clip that we're running here, but
Yeah.
if you idle for a while, this dude just starts flexing his muscles.
Yep.
Like, he just
Yep.
starts doing a good flex and showing you how buff he is.
I would say there's a little bit of Karnov in here too, and the overworld is straight up ghouls and ghosts.
Yeah,
ghosts
it
and
does
gods.
look like
What's
that,
the
yeah.
overworld? Oh, you mean just
It's just a
It's
map.
just like
Yeah.
the map screen that pans along and
so
shows
it's
you
more
like,
brawler than like a Metroid.
Oh,
style.
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a Metroidvania. It is very, very difficult.
Yeah,
but
it is really hard.
the cool thing about it is there are no lives. So as long as you can make it through a screen, you'll never have to do that again.
Yeah.
You just get to the next screen. So I'm sure people will like become experts and do expert runs and stuff. But this is part of the company Nicholas, I think they're called.
Okay.
Who are doing just really special stuff with Switch packaging.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We saw with Cave Story and
Binding of Isaac also.
Isaac,
Yeah.
which they published. That they make like full on NES manuals. This one has a gold one. They put stickers and like keychains in the box and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It has
manual?
This has eagles in it that will try to kill you.
That snake will spit
which is-
something at you.
which is very classic NES.
Now, I made Barrett, our producer, capture this footage for us today so that we had a little something to talk over.
Yeah.
And he cried like a
Good.
like a baby. He
this-
said that it was too hard for him, and he's not very good at video
To be
games.
fair,
it
he
is
does
very
that
hard.
every day.
I don't think he knows there's a microphone that he can talk into while we say stuff.
That's
about
why I'm talking so much smack about him right now.
That's true.
So
it. We pushed him too far.
now I will say, given that I've only played a few levels, $29.99 for the digital release seems a little high for me.
Definitely.
But I do love, like you said, what they're doing with the physical release, the
Yeah.
sticker
Yeah, for
packages, the bonuses. Like if this is your jam, like there's a lot to take in there. So
I'm right there with you. I played this game a lot, and then I looked up the price of it, and I had a little bit of sticker shock as well. Where I was like,
Hachi Machi.
$30
Yeah.
is a little bit much. But you know what? They went high with Cave Story as well.
Yep.
And maybe that's just their thing.
Well, I mean, let's talk about physical production. It's expensive.
Yeah.
To print a card itself is expensive. To add in bonuses like they're giving
Did
for
you guys
fans,
see that
that's
gnome?
expensive.
Yeah.
Did everybody
Yeah.
see that gnome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
That gnome.
Want to make sure you guys saw that gnome.
yeah, you can
came
beat on
out of-
that. You can beat on that gnome real good.
He came out of nowhere.
give you a bunch of gold and meat.
So this is a golden axe.
Sort of.
It's got nods of that too.
Yeah.
And if you get
Golden axe is you're a barbarian and you kick gnomes for stuff.
Well, it's more so a Conan reference, right down to the opening. Like we saw it there in the opening where he's getting attacked by the birds and he breaks
Yeah.
free. Like that's straight up a Conan reference.
the title screen's really interesting. I don't.
Oh yeah,
But it doesn't let you start the game until you die.
yeah. So the
So-
title screen opens like you get dropped into this group of enemies and you have to fight through them. And then as soon as you die, the music starts up and it like pans up and it's like tiny barbarian.
Yeah.
Like, it's very cool.
It's really clever.
That's awesome.
I like all of that.
Another game that we've been playing is Cinemora EX
Yep.
from our friends over at Grasshopper Manufacturer. This is a side-scrolling shmup, gorgeous
And
sort
it
of.
is a
Absolutely,
port of
yeah.
the Xbox.
It is a
game.
port of the Xbox game. It's a gorgeous shoot 'em up that is very like steampunk influenced.
Diesel punk.
Diesel punk is
Vin
that what
Diesel
they're
punk?
officially?
Yeah, like Metal
Yeah.
Slug or something like
Yeah,
that. Where it's like
okay.
everything's like over the top.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
machines.
It also features Lizard with sunglasses that smokes a cigar.
Yeah.
And the story makes no
does
sense
Star
at all.
Fox.
Yeah. It's very strange.
Yeah, the main hook here is that you can speed up and slow down.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because when you get in like this big wave of bullets, you can hit the L trigger and everything goes black and white, slows down, and you can take out enemies. I've been playing this game on like normal, which I feel is kind of easy, and I like that because it's giving me a chance to get through levels. Some of the bosses are awesome.
Yeah,
like they're
huge.
these massive ships and tanks that fill up the whole screen. And they
love
do
this
that
look.
classic shmup thing where you start beating up on one part of it, and then the entire ship rotates.
Yeah.
and then all these other nodules come out and start shooting at you, and you take them all down. So, this is a clever game.
So here
Like,
comes a ship battle here.
I think the time hook's really smart. And
Yeah.
that's what I've been really.
Well, it's also really interesting because you can see if you're watching the video here. Every so often you'll see a green number pop up above your counter, and that's one of the biggest hooks to me about this game is that you have to defeat enemies to add time to your counter. Because if your timer runs down to 0, then you die, you lose a life. But each enemy you kill is worth varying amounts of time that gets added back to your overall time. So it's a very confrontational game. Like you have
That's
to,
weird because the Latin of the name means without stop.
right? I didn't know you spoke Latin as well.
Like moratorium.
Yeah.
Mora.
But yeah, I think it's a really cool game. Glad to have another shoot 'em up on Switch.
Yeah, I don't think like there's enough of those. There's a bunch of the ACA and Neo Geo ones, but in terms of like a modern shooter, I mean, there aren't enough of those in general, period, right? I'm still holding out for some of the classics like, you know, Ikaruga and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So.
I'd love an R-Type.
It's cool to get like a Xbox. That I remember that game being like a big deal because it was only on Xbox. It's hard to play.
Yeah.
Our very own Damon Hatfield gave it a
he scored
9. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's really cool to have this on Switch.
They never will be, but I really wish like Housemarque's games could be
me
on
too.
Switch. They would
Yeah.
just be
Yeah.
so
too.
God, it's such a perfect fit, right?
Yeah.
They published by Sony.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all Sony.
Yeah. Last game I want to talk about before we move into some of our bigger topics here today is The Flame and the Flood.
Yep.
Brian, you've been playing this,
Yes.
and you're really enjoying it.
I do. Yeah, I do like it a lot. It's very difficult. Like, or at least it is for me. Maybe.
So you're saying that Barrett probably couldn't hang if he was playing
I don't
it.
think so. I think he'd be dead already.
Right.
I think before we finish this conversation, he's already done.
This game looks real hard.
Yeah, this game's very hard. But I like it a lot because it feels sort of like a way more sort of like artsier Don't Starve with some kind of Fallout elements. You're basically this character in this top-down overworld, foraging and hunting and gathering for things that you can find to sort of build shelter, build tools, and survive. The difference here is that you're not sort of locked into one location, which I like a lot. You can get on your boat and do this sort of like, you know, Oregon Trail down the river thing.
Yeah.
And smash
It's called doing a fjord.
a fjord.
Yeah.
And then you end up smashing into walls, and then you have to fix your ship and stuff too. But as you can see, like the graphics, the art
I
direction.
mean, the art direction is out of control.
very gorgeous. You have a lot of that sort of like kit bashed Fallout, like sort of used future aesthetic. This post-apocalyptic thing here.
Have you been listening to the music at all?
Yeah,
Because I heard the soundtrack, like the original soundtrack.
Well, it's the cool thing is when I got into a boat the first time, they just played like a country song, where
Yeah.
this guy's, or like a folk song. This guy's really wailing on a guitar and singing about
It is-
going down the river, and I was like, "That's surprising, cool, all right."
I forget his name, but they hired like a country musician essentially
Yeah.
to just do the whole soundtrack, and they handle it really well. I think even though it's procedurally generated, the river and everything, like
Yeah.
it sounds
cool.
Yeah, the whole river as you go is procedurally generated.
One thing I will say is,
They have a guy procedurally generating
Generating-
all the music.
Yeah,
It's live
in the background.
I died. I didn't get super far on my first run, and it asked me if I wanted to continue from a checkpoint, which I thought was incredibly nice.
Yes.
For a game like this, which usually is just like permadeath.
Because
and
it
then
is a
start over.
roguelike. Yeah, that's very surprising that they would include checkpoints.
Yeah. So I mean, it's got that ability to go back and like be like, okay, I screwed that up. Let me give this a shot again, which is cool. It helps me think that I can build out this character's world and his arsenal a lot better than just like having to start from scratch every time.
Yeah.
So yeah. Again, a genre that's like sorely lacking on Switch. So good to see it there.
You give it the Brian Altano seal of approval.
I do. Yes.
Okay. Well, right on.
I want to know what's at the end of that river.
Probably a whole nother river. Yeah. Some kind of waterfall, I would
River's all the
imagine.
way down.
What if you spent all those hours playing that game and then you got to the end and you just went over a waterfall and then that was the end of the game?
Yeah, that's happens like in every Disney afternoon cartoon. So
That's true.
Yeah.
could happen here too.
Gentlemen, let's get down to brass tacks. Our very own Sam Claiborne
What's up, everybody?
reviewed Star Fox 2 a few weeks ago when the SNES Classic launched.
You guys must have been
And-
talking about this for the last couple of weeks.
We actually have saved
Talk
it
of the
for
town.
you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we wanted to get you on the show to talk about
this.
Star Fox 2.
Did you guys play?
I have. Yeah, I have played it.
Did you play?
I have not yet. No.
I haven't played the full
Well,
game.
you were at the event with me.
Yes.
Haven't played the full game, but definitely dabbled. Just as a sort of an anecdote, not a fan of the original Star Fox.
Oh, really?
I didn't actually play it until
64?
No, I mean I played 64. I didn't actually play Star Fox until the SNES Classic.
Right.
I just completely missed it because I came up on the N64.
Yeah.
But to go back to the original Star Fox just feels very archaic.
Yeah.
So
see
I'm
that.
interested to see what you had to say. Well, we know what you had to say about the second one, but tell me a little bit about the history of Star Fox 2.
Sure. Just to get out of the way, like I love Star Fox. I love the first game because it's so funky and plucky and trying to do like something that it just shouldn't be able to do. And the way they like kind of solved like 3D on the SNES and in the Game Boy at the time, which the people that made that game, Argonaut, worked on first. They made a 3D Game Boy game which looks just as good.
What's the name of that game?
It's called X.
X, that's right.
Yeah, it's really neat. Anyway, I really like Star Fox, and the way Star Fox works is that it's on rails, and so you can kind of fly around within this kind of area and shoot. Star Fox 2 doesn't have that, so it's like the freedom to walk around in 3D and stuff is what breaks Star Fox 2.
Right.
So let's get to the point in which they think they can make this game. It's after Star Fox, and they're thinking like, well, we'll just do another Star Fox game. Star Fox is really popular, but Star Fox was popular because it looked amazing and futuristic on the SNES, and it was pretty fun, and they just put all this marketing behind it. What happened between then and then the projected release date of Star Fox 2, 1996? Like, think how late that is. That's crazy.
Yeah.
A couple things happened. One was that the Nintendo 64, was in production, was going to come out, and Mario 64 was going to look amazing. But more than that, the PlayStation was out, and Crash Bandicoot came out in 1996, for instance.
Resident Evil came out in 1996.
Resident Evil came out in 96. Yeah. That's a very good point. And the Saturn was out too. Less popular now to look back on and think about, but it had really good shooters. Like really good shooters. And and 3D was only good in like a couple instances on that system, but one of them was shooters. And also the PlayStation just had great 3D graphics all around, and the 64 is going to. So this game was trying to do a little bit more what those games are doing, with like a Doom-like kind of open environment, like moving around in it. You can't get an idea from it from the space level, but when you land on a planet, you actually walk around in a 3D environment. And these are actually, a lot of these levels are open. You can turn around and dogfight. It can't handle that. Like it's too.
It chugs, man.
Long.
Yeah.
It's chugging, but more than that, it interferes with your shooting. So when you're trying to press up and down and track and just do everything with the D-pad, like it just doesn't work on the system.
So it seems like this game was a sort of byproduct of a time that it never got to have. It was
exactly it.
Almost usurped by better looking shooters almost immediately before it was even concocted. But why complete it in 2017 and bring it back now? Is it for archival purposes? Because it seems like
I don't know if we'll ever have the answer to that question.
See, there's the rub, right? Like, I love that they brought Star Fox 2 to the SNES Classic. Not only as a boon to those that want to purchase the SNES Classic, because here's a brand new, for all intents and purposes, SNES game in 2017. But I think it's important for Nintendo history to have a game like this that's readily available. Readily available is
in limited quantity.
I actually really like the aesthetics of it. I love how this game looks. I love how it's janky and how like weird the sprites look hanging there in the air. But the game was canceled because like this doesn't make sense to your brain very well. Like it's hard to keep up. You can't tell here, but there's a lot of lag from the frames, so you can't really shoot what you want to shoot.
I was watching you with the
LR
fight
buttons.
this boss.
Yeah, I got pretty good.
I remember watching
when
you
we
fight
first
this
got
boss.
I beat this game on hard, which was no small task, and I would love to beat it on Legendary. And I keep saying, like, when people are talking to me about this game, like, I love it, and I'd recommend it to a very small sliver of people.
Sure.
But when it came out, like, they put it out as a novelty in this collection. I think it's really smart to do that for the people I'd recommend it to, which is probably a lot of the people listening to this show, right? But like, our job here is to recommend games to a larger audience,
right?
And to say, would you play this? I would never tell somebody to go buy the SNES Classic collection to play this game.
Or that.
I think it's definitively the worst game in the collection. But to you guys who love Nintendo history and anybody out there, like, absolutely, you have to play this game. But that's not like, my job as a critic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Honestly. And I can definitely compare it to the games like Star Fox, which I think it doesn't work as well as.
Yeah.
And the games in the collection, which are masterpieces that hold up perfectly. And I could review any of those games in that collection right now and say definitively, like, those are like 8, 9, 10 games.
I'm glad you're able to differentiate those two worlds, by the way, because I think that is sort of the mark of a critic and a collector or a historian, right? And I think both have their merits. And I think in this case, they didn't intersect perfectly. Like, if you find like a boxed copy of the original Legend of Zelda that was like a press run or something like that, like, yes, that's a treasure. And it's also, if you tore it open with your teeth, it would be a 10 out of 10 video game. This is not really that. But I'm glad that it's here.
Historical oddity.
Yeah.
And it has all these problems with it. That's what makes it interesting. The warts and all thing with games is really cool.
Yeah. I completely agree. And I think it was important for us to take a look at this critically. And that sort of caused some controversy with your review.
Yeah, a lot of people, there was kind of an echo chamber response. And this is just a reminder to everybody, like, definitely read the review before you go after the reviewer.
Correct.
Because I got accused of a lot of things which just were completely silly.
My favorite thing that you got accused of a lot was that you were a millennial.
Which is true. And that means I played Star Fox when I was 14, and it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I still think Star Fox is wonderful. So it's probably a good idea to put a millennial on that review.
Well, when I look at you, I just think millennial.
Yeah.
So,
All the time.
There's just something
It was
about you,
weird.
Sam.
You are just the most woke teen I've ever seen.
So anyway, I was really into the game, and I'm really into the review experience. But yeah, people were saying this one thing to me, which was, why didn't you review it on its like it was a game that came out today?
Yeah, that was the thing.
And I don't really know what they
That was the
mean
thing
by
that baffled me too, right? Because it's like they wanted you to review the game through a lens of 1996. But
What does that mean?
here's,
It
well,
was
here's the
canceled in
fact.
1996
Here's the fact.
because it didn't work.
We live in 2017. This game was released officially in 2017. It doesn't make sense to review it through retro glasses. Like,
Until we invent
I
time
really don't
travel,
know
no
what that
one's
would
going to be
mean.
playing it in
Like,
1996.
and think of that statement. That's
Yeah.
like a bad thing. Like,
Yeah.
it was canceled because it looked like crap alongside these other systems.
Right.
If I would have reviewed that in 1995, I would have been like, lol, Nintendo, you need a new system because this game is not working well.
Right.
yeah, it looks
I mean,
butt.
come on.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, like, let's review it like it is going up against 2017 games. Like, it doesn't have any pay-to-win stuff in it. There's no loot boxes.
that's
There's
nice.
no microtransactions. 10 out of 10.
There's a lot going
like,
for it.
It's doing better than a lot of its contemporaries are. It just simply on the merit that when you start it, the entire thing is there,
You won't need any updates.
and you don't ever have to buy anything ever again. Sure.
Plus, it's got that dope polygonal dragon that I really love.
Oh, yeah.
No textures on him, just a bunch of
It has
blocks.
cutscenes
needs
in
textures?
blocks.
I know. It's
Like
great.
The first Star Fox doesn't have that. It has like just when you fly out of the base at the beginning. But this has like
Lock.
Star Destroyers basically and like these big things.
Yeah,
that are
it is
like,
pretty
rendered.
impressive to see some of that 3D rendered stuff. Like
It's
I
so
love,
cool.
I love the scene that kind of closes your review that has the ship sort of turning in space, and you can see the decals and the logos on it. Like it is lovingly crafted.
Right.
It just came out too late. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But their willingness to include it is awesome. And I don't think it's analogous to it necessarily, but I feel like we're in an era right now with Nintendo where they are slowly loosening the reins on everything in terms of like they're partnering with Universal to do like theme parks and things
Yep.
like that. And just them slowly being like, we'll maybe consider TV and movies again after the Super Mario Brothers movie still hangs over them. Like the
Yeah.
worst sin ever.
Oh, Mario and Luigi Mario.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I just think it's a cool part in that pattern that we're seeing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I'm glad that you got to review it as a Nintendo fan, as a Star Fox fan. I'm sorry you had to deal with so much stuff, but I think your review is spot on.
No, it wasn't that bad. I just I want to get the word out that that it's important to go read the source before repeating what everybody else is saying.
True.
Because a lot of that was answered.
Yeah.
And you could just read it in the review.
In the review. Well, speaking of reading the source, the Nintendo World Championships happened at New York Comic-Con last week. You were out there.
At the source.
You got to cover
Yes.
a lot of this event.
Yeah, I was there for the whole show.
So this is the third Nintendo World Championship. There we see our friend Andrew Renee hosting the Nintendo World Championship.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Andrew. Renee.
Always love that logo.
Yeah, it's really
dude,
great.
it's so
I love
good.
that they kept the
Yeah.
retro logo.
When they first announced they were bringing this back this year, like my immediate impulse was to see if they were selling T-shirts with that logo.
Yeah.
'Cause I love it so much.
We saw a bunch of those in 2015 because they brought it back.
Yeah.
So the first Nintendo World Championship was in 1990.
Yeah.
They brought it back in
Did you go?
2015.
There was one in the Bay Area.
In
there
1990.
was tryouts.
No, I was.
I
was. Four.
I had friends in New Jersey in the 90s that went.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was like 8 or 9, and I had friends that went, came back with like hats and T-shirts and stuff
You
like
were
that.
so jealous.
Oh, that's
Oh my God, yeah. I remember reading about it in Nintendo Power and then going to see the Wizard and being like, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand that because I grew up in a house where like sports were constantly on in the background, right? My dad was always listening to the radio. He was always watching competitive sports, like
Yeah.
sporting events. He would like bring me to hockey games and baseball games, and it never really stuck. And then like I open up this magazine and there's just a crowd of people screaming at a television.
Yeah, the first.
And I'm like, oh my
esports.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
But they brought it back in 2015, sort of as a tie-in with Mario Maker. Personally, for me, that was probably one of my best moments at IGN, sitting in the war room, watching
watch
people
those people
run
Oh
through
my
the gauntlets. I was
God.
sitting next to Brian and Brandon and Sam, and we were just losing our minds.
Oh my God.
It's so hard.
Yeah, there was like
they-
100 people in the IGN
Yeah,
war room standing
just
up and screaming.
flipping out. Yeah.
That was so much fun.
But they brought it back this year. 24 players brought in through qualifying rounds. The final win went to Oakland's own Thomas Gonda.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's really, really cool.
He beat the 2015 champ John Numbers, who was the second place person.
Yeah.
It was neck and neck back in the final competition.
What games
so
did
cool.
they play?
Well, we're gonna get to that. Jonathan actually, he was there. He did a lot of coverage for the Nintendo World Championship. I want him to tell us a little bit about
Yeah, for
what's
sure.
going down there.
Well, so the event itself, it ran a little long, which I'd say was like the one drawback to it. Originally, it was supposed to be 3 hours long, went for 4 hours. But it was a really awesome event that they kept the sort of pace of it going really well because every game was a surprise. No one knew, including the competitors, what they were going to be playing next. And so there was always this little bit of mystery as every round ended and every round began. And it was a bit of back and forth of 12 people are competing right now. 6 of them go to the underground where people can compete to get back into the competition. There's this weird sort of like snaking process to the whole thing. But when there were these like moments of people playing Donkey Kong Country Returns and they're trying to get through the minecart level and you're on the edge of your seat waiting, or they're playing Mario Party 2 mini games and it's like, is Yoshi going to knock Wario off? Like there were really intense, genuinely exciting moments. And I think they orchestrated the entire thing super well.
I'm the kind of person that doesn't understand like League of Legends, and when I look at like these like giant sort of arenas full of like people cheering on for esports, it's something I don't really get.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I ever covered in this industry was this Street Fighter event here at the Wharf.
Perfect.
And I grew up playing Street Fighter, and I remember being in arcades and gathering around a cabinet and having a bunch of like teenagers yell and scream, but nothing really on the scope of something like this. And I think what we like forget is how incredibly crafted a lot of these games are, that taking a moment like a minecart level and putting it in front of a room of hundreds of people turns it from this like simple tense thing to this like edge of your seat, screaming as loud as you can, cheering, clapping, and hoping for the demise of the other player type of situation that you would never really expect. And I think it's so cool how these games scale to that level, you know, especially like Bird and Beans.
Yeah, the
weird.
2003, like
Such
it was
a
a
deep cut.
It's a
WarioWare
WarioWare mini game, like micro game, that you had to unlock on the original Game Boy Advance version of WarioWare.
Yeah.
And they just threw to it because they have this deep chest that they can just kind of be like, here's this weird game.
That's that black and white game where you're like flying around. And
You're a bird and you have to use your tongue
to grab beans as they fall down through the air, and you have to hold down the button to get the beans. And if the beans fall and hit
I
the
remember
ground,
that really well. For
destroys
some
the
reason,
game.
I thought it was like grayscale. Or something.
It's a little,
No, I remember,
it's a little like missile commandy, I guess, in that way.
Well, and so what was really cool was I got to speak to Bill Trinan and Doug
Friend of the show.
Bowser. Yeah, friend of the show.
Hey, Bill.
And Doug Bowser, friend of Bowser, ahead of the show. And they were both talking about how what was really important to them was, one, the surprise of you're not going to expect all the games that you're going to play. But for them, it's, especially Bill, who has been there for, I think, 19 years or so, he has this huge, deep wealth of knowledge of Nintendo's entire franchise and lore and specific like modes in games. And so he's like, I pulled from that knowledge to be like, I think this will work in a not stadium setting, but in this theater setting where so many people are watching and 12 people are competing. So even though it wasn't a multiplayer game, it was still a multiplayer event.
Well, he talked a little bit about the stuff that they actually cut from the challenges, like the way that they tested these different challenges internally at Nintendo to see whether or not they would play to an audience, and then what they decided, you know, what made the final cut, what were the qualifying rounds, what put people into the second round, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk a little bit about like what these rounds were. So a competition kicked off with Breath of the Wild shield surfing, which is a portion of that game that you can completely miss. So this is just speaking to sort of how deep cut a lot of this stuff was. And then a high score in Smash Wii U home run contest, the Samus Returns Diggernaut race, more Smash, Mario Kart 8, Splatoon 2 tower control, ARMS. We talked about Bird and Beans, the minecart race from Donkey Kong Country Returns, Tetris, which you were saying. Yeah.
So the Tetris round was, I think, the one round that sort of fell to me because I think it was one of the underground rounds. So it was people competing to get back into the tournament. And they just didn't seem to know how the older version of Tetris worked. It was clearly the original sort of Game Boy or NES version, I think. And they were just having a difficult time lining things up.
What's not to know?
I don't know.
You got to do the blocks, man. You got to make the lines.
Well, that game didn't have, I don't believe it had a quick drop. It didn't have hold.
It didn't have hold.
There's a whole bunch of rules that like evolved and changed. Like the official Tetris guideline Bible or whatever is completely insane because they're always sort of canonically, non-canonically adding new rules and being like, this is the definitive way to say from us, the people that make Tetris. And people are like, no, stop. Like, and to some of us, like the Game Boy version is the only way we'll play.
Sure,
it,
yeah.
you know?
I actually love the DS version.
I love Tetris DS.
Yeah, I think that one's great. But
Yeah.
it was just a
With all the Nintendo stuff in it.
Yeah, it would like play on the top screen or whatever. The only thing for me was just watching it. It felt a little like embarrassing just because I was like, I don't know if you've played Tetris before sometimes, but I'm sure it was just in the heat of the moment, you're getting used to doing this. And that was the thing they really considered was it's a wide range of people. I think they said a 25-year age gap between the youngest and oldest person.
It's crazy.
And so it's this thing of like, these people may not have played some of these games, and especially the younger kids may never have seen Tetris before. Like that was just a possibility.
Tetris was one of the original Nintendo World Championship games.
Yeah.
Rightfully
The
so.
other two were?
No. Super Mario.
Yep.
Yeah.
Collect a bunch of coins in that. And then Rad Racer.
Oh, Rad Racer.
okay.
Cool.
We did a Let's Play of that here at IGN recently.
Yeah.
Me and Mary Kish.
Oh yeah,
Twitch.
for
we did not do well, but
Save
it was
Point.
really fun.
It's really cool.
Like sort of the movie The Wizard, which a lot of this kind of stems from, harking back to, like the Super Mario 3.
That's where
was
the
debuted
first.
for
Yeah,
the
I was
first
gonna say
time.
that's the first place that.
And obviously,
what
that
an
was-
exclusive.
Yeah, that was obviously a fake movie, but like kids were getting the warp whistles. They were like glitching through the background walls. Like, how do you know that? You know?
Someone in the audience yells, "Get the warp whistle!" And they're revealing it as a game nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
the last-
that kid broke an embargo.
The last few games that I want to talk about here, Mario Party 2, bunch of mini games from that, obviously. A bunch of levels from Super Mario Maker, which I feel like is borderline unfair.
Yep,
that's a real tough.
mean.
That's a real tough go. Super Mario Brothers Deluxe for the Game Boy Color. And then it all sort of
interesting.
Is it like a
Yeah, that
bonus
was-
part of that?
It must have
a
been
multiplayer mode.
Okay.
And so one of you plays as Mario, the other's Luigi, and the thing is you're both running through the same level, but there are blocks in the levels that if you hit it, it causes blocks to appear to stop Luigi.
Right. No, I totally played that.
So
a real
it was
toughie.
really fun to watch. And this was sort of when it was down to
like
Thomas
top 4,
and John. That was just Thomas and John Numbers, I think,
Okay.
at that point.
Yeah.
It was would have been the top 3. They did
Yeah.
a 3-part final round.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
But this whole competition culminated in 3 challenges from Super Mario Odyssey, which I thought this was a really clever thing for Nintendo to do because A, obviously it's free promotion on their part. Like they're showing off their new game and like, oh, also it's out in 2 weeks. B, it showed us some new stuff in Mario, which you can see here.
Cool.
These are the challenges. So they did 3 really clever challenges. So the first one they did was this 8-bit 2D challenge.
Can you stand on that thing?
So here's the deal. So he's going to come out here and hit this POW block, and then it freezes them in place.
No. Boy.
Yeah.
And this was a crazy
love
thing
it.
that there's now a built-in like lore and history to Nintendo World Championships because when John Numbers was falling behind, everyone was like, "Oh no, the champ is falling! Like what's happening?" And Thomas just sort of kept going, and he figured out first, and it was this really cool moment in the room experience. Yeah.
But I think it's a really interesting way that they position this because it's 3 very disparate challenges.
Yes.
So you'll see this 8-bit one, right? And then the next thing that they showed was sort of this fork flick challenge, which if we're going to show it here, you basically needed to get Capi.
Fork Mario?
Yeah, so you basically just needed to work your way up this tower, flicking your hat, possessing the fork stuff, and then like these little engines here throw the hat even further. So you'll see them do things like Mario will throw his hat into an engine, it'll connect with the fork, and then you can fling yourself up further. This to me,
this is so smart.
well, and I think this is representative of 3 very different eras of Mario, right? So this feels a lot like Galaxy to me.
Yeah.
You know, whereas obviously the first challenge was more of an 8-bit challenge. And then the last challenge that they showed was sort of a classic N64 style level where you're navigating sort of this ice area. So it's very slick and you had to kind of speed your way through there and then use Capi to capture bullet bills and wind your way through some columns. You'll see this here. And then eventually you wind up, see there's capturing the bullet bills. And then eventually you wind up facing off against a boss that reminded me a lot of Godhan from Wind Waker. Yeah, it's a very cool boss encounter. And I just really like the way that they position these challenges to these guys.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was a very, very clever way on Nintendo's part to say like, here, this game really sort of has something for everybody. And also it looks to be pretty challenging, especially when you're trying to play it under the gun like this.
Yeah, the fact that they'd never seen any of these parts of the game before. Like they had hints of it, but I love that it was just
Well, this
fresh
boss
for
is so
everyone.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you capture its fists, and then you have to drive the fist into its face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to
and I
make
think-
it punch itself.
Yeah.
I think this sort of answers some more questions that we have about this game too. We haven't seen a ton of bosses. This guy is very, like you said, very N64. But also like to throw back to what we saw a second ago, like we haven't seen a ton of like pure platforming stuff in this game.
Yeah.
A lot of it has been like New Donk City is an awesome playground, but it's also incredibly safe, and you can climb to the top of the tallest building and jump off and not lose health.
Yeah.
But this one, like in sort of like bottomless
You can
pits,
get out in the girders, and I know there's hard stuff out there, but we haven't seen it.
Exactly. So it's cool to see all of that out in the margins of this game, because I think that's where it's going to get really challenging.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the end of Super Mario Galaxy 2, like the final stars and stuff. The runs in that game were so hard. There's like the perfect run at the end of it.
Dude, my wife and I almost like 100%ed 3D World, but there's like 3 levels at the end that are just like incredibly.
I know the levels that you're talking about.
And we'll be sitting there some nights, and she'll be like, "Do you want to plug in the Wii U and get through those levels?" And I was like, "It's not happening.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. I don't want to fight with you tonight.
Yeah.
It's not happening. I love you. Let's stop."
So, while I think that this is a clever way to show off new Mario gameplay rather than just release like a gameplay specific trailer or a launch trailer, I am a little concerned, and I wanted to ask you guys today, have we seen too much of Super Mario Odyssey? At this point, they've done several directs. They've shown a ton of stuff on Treehouse.
Right.
They've revealed here, like in Nintendo World Championships. Like, do you feel like you've seen a lot of what Mario Odyssey has to offer, and does that diminish your excitement for it?
I feel like I've seen more going into this game than I have for any 3D Mario in the past. But I'm also looking more. Like specifically with Mario 64, and I've told this story on the show, I pre-ordered an N64 and Mario 64 and Pilot Wings, all of the launch titles. And I walked into Toys R Us and I saw the first Bowser fight in the game happening. And I just sort of like covered my eyes, like shielded myself, and kept walking. I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything. I don't want anything spoiled. I saw him grabbing Bowser by the tail and spinning around and throwing, and I was like, there's no way in hell you can do that. This is coming off of like, you can't do that in Super Mario World. This was the sequel to Super Mario World.
Right.
You know how insane that was? So this game, different story. I work at IGN now. It's impossible to avoid almost anything. Some people here go into media blackouts on things.
I'm trying my best to do that for Star Wars right now.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But like even when you're not looking, you're scrolling through Twitter and someone broke out a GIF, or you're on Instagram and there's a JPEG or something.
There's a lot of shirtless Marios all around.
Yeah, that was unavoidable. It's a beautiful sight though, so it's okay.
I hope it's like a great plateau. Like we saw a lot of Zelda, and it was an unfathomably bigger, more beautiful, more wonderful game than we could have ever imagined.
And I think that's the thing that isn't diminishing any of my excitement about it, is that I know just from playing the E3 demo that there are power moons littered across each of these kingdoms, just hidden all over the place. Like in tasks like we saw at the Nintendo World Championship, where you have to complete these insane platform segments. But then also there are just random characters that you'll complete something for that's literally just talking to them and be like, hey, you're a good pal. Here's a power moon.
I love that.
And it's like that kind of stuff that's just like,
That happened
I
in
wouldn't have
Mario
done that.
64 a little bit.
Yeah, random toads would be like, hey man, I'll kick you a star. You hustling out here.
But for me, I feel like we have seen a lot of this game, and probably more than I would have wanted, but it still feels like there's so much left to see. Like there are entire kingdoms that they have shown at most a screenshot or 2 seconds of footage of. Wherever Capi comes from, I want to know the deep lore of the Capi kingdom.
Like
that weird
his house,
let's
or
find
like
out what happens.
where his family is.
Yeah.
I think
He's got a wife and kids back
You
there.
think Bowser has a hat that he uses that
He's
has
got that
a
top
mind?
hat.
Yeah.
So you think it has a mind?
Maybe. They call them brain hats.
Or whatever, an eye?
If you collect all the power moons, Yoshi will just tell you something.
In the
man.
very first print review of Super Mario Brothers that we've been able to find as humans, I think Frank Cifaldi actually tweeted about that at the show. He found a review, and it was all about how Super Mario Brothers, to this person who had never heard of this game and was reading it for like a local, like maybe a college paper or something. Like game reviews were not around for early Nintendo games. It talked about how many secrets there were in it. And like how cool it was that there was a brick that you could find that had a 1-up in it, or and when you think back of the first time you guys played Super Mario Brothers, or if you're a little bit younger than me, you might not have played it at the time, but that was what it was about. It was like about slowly exploring this world and running through it and speed runs and stuff like that. Like that was all later.
Yeah.
It was fun like to get through the early levels fast once you got sick of them, but really like you would jump and explore and go find every pipe you could go down and figure out the best way through stuff. And hopefully the secrets in this game is what they're keeping secret.
Right.
Yeah, the schoolyard conversations for that game. I almost said water cooler, but we didn't like really do that. So we can go to hang around
Drinking fountain.
The drinking fountain was the
I really love the idea of like a bunch of kids gathering around a drinking fountain every morning and just like, oh, hey, did you find this?
The conversations then were about the warp zones. They were about the hidden one-up mushrooms. Like I remember the first time I'd played through 1-1 1,000 times before someone was like, hey, do you know there's a like jump right there over that like green and orange like mountain, whatever it is back there, the upside down cloud basically.
Yeah.
The bush. And there's just a one up there, and it's there every single time forever now. And then you start to memorize.
And you could get it and then go backwards into the pipe if
yes,
you're really,
if you're really
careful.
good, like pixel by pixel. Yeah. And all of that stuff was really incredible.
So I think we're seeing the acrobatics and we're seeing like some like areas, but we're not seeing the secret stuff.
right.
Yeah, and I totally vibe with that. Like I get that for sure. I guess one of my only concerns about Mario Odyssey is sort of this replayability that you guys are talking about. Like just hearing you talk about it right now, one of the things that I love the most about Super Mario World is being able to go back in even 15 years after I played it the last time. I'm replaying it on an SNES Classic right now. And this sort of sense of rediscovery, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, right, I forgot that this leads to the Blue Switch
I just played
Palace. or
Sunshine again and I felt great about it.
Really?
Yeah, I've forgotten just enough stuff and remembered just enough stuff to make it not annoying.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
So I kind of wonder if Odyssey has that sort of immediate replayability like the older Mario games, or if we're going to have to take a 10-year break and then come back to it. Because like
good point.
I love Breath of the Wild.
I could
Breath
play
of the
more
Wild
Breath of
is
the
probably one of my top 10 favorite games of all time, not just this year. I don't want to play that game for a long time.
To be fair,
It's drawing me back.
We did play it
fair,
several times. You're
we've
right.
beaten this game together. You've beaten this game once on your own, so have I, and then you beat it twice again with me.
Yeah, well, we beat it once together.
Yeah.
I beat it once regular.
Yeah.
I beat it on Master Mode.
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah. And
So yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
so you're good.
Yeah, I'm
You're
good,
good
yeah.
for a while.
Yeah. So I mean, I wonder. I guess that sort of flies in the face of what I was just saying, because who's to say that I don't go through Mario and then try to 100% it, and then I'm like, well, maybe there's a Mario Master Mode.
Who knows what the kingdoms are going to be set up like? There's no overworld to this one. They've said.
Right.
It's, you just go in Mario's Odyssey, the ship,
Yeah.
from kingdom to kingdom. But who knows what those kingdoms are going to hold beyond what we've seen of that portion of New Donk City, beyond the Wooden Kingdom.
Yeah.
there could be so much.
Yeah, and you guys are so right. I mean, there is a sort of a tedium that is inherent in modern game design when they are so overwhelmed with content sometimes, where it is a drawback in terms of replayability. When you get through and you 100% a game for the first time and it takes you like 60 hours to do it, and it's amazing, you aren't really like nudged to go back and do it again because it's such a process. Whereas Mario 64, I mean, you can sort of get to the goal in that game pretty quickly. 100%ing it's kind of a, it's
tricky.
a job, but
Yeah.
it's worth doing.
Yeah.
But I think, time heals all wounds when it comes to stuff like that. Sunshine is a different story because Sunshine hasn't been playable anywhere else.
Yeah.
Mario 64, I've replayed on DS a bunch of times. I've replayed on Virtual Console. Sunshine is
It's hard to play the
locked.
Galaxy games too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're you can play them on Wii U, but Sunshine is locked to the Nintendo
To the GameCube.
Yeah. And if you don't have one hooked up and running, it's not happening. So, we'll see how well all these games get future-proofed and how often we'll want to go back.
And to bring it all back around, this is the reason I don't like Super Mario Run, is because it doesn't have my favorite and I think the most important part of a Mario game,
The
which is
exploration.
that soul of exploration and sequence.
Sure.
Yeah.
So even if the acrobatics are there 100%, like I feel like all kinds of games are doing that just right now, and Mario originated that, and Run feels just right. But it's like I want to do the opposite of that. I want to stand still, and I want to think like,
Okay, how do I
the
get?
heck
Yeah.
am I going to get up there?
Yeah. I totally
Stand
understand
still
that.
when you're running.
Yeah. That's true. An excellent point from Sam the Sham Claiborne.
Love that guy.
Let's do a little question block and then get the heck
right.
out of here.
Sure. The
Ba-ding.
question.
That's the question block sound. Ba-ding, ba-ding.
Oh, okay. The question block is obviously our weekly segment where we check in with the listeners. Hi, listeners. You can reach us
Scoop.
at NVC,
exactly.
NVC at IGN.
Watch us on the wall.
You can all check out the Facebook group, which is very popular these days. Lots of people have joined in the last few months.
Yeah.
Love that group.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
an awesome group.
We also have a Twitter account.
Yeah, that's at NVC Podcast.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Check
this
that
week I
once
pulled
every other day.
Yep. This week I pulled from the emails we've been getting, NVC at IGN.com. Ian from Saskatoon asks, there seems to have been silence from Nintendo since May about their upcoming smartphone games. Originally, we were supposed to have 5 games by March 2017. Currently, we only have 3 if you count Miitomo. I was wondering, what do you hope to get out of Nintendo's next smartphone game, whether it be Animal Crossing, Zelda, or something else? As a side note, do any of you still use Miitomo?
No.
I recently opened my game and deleted most of my friends because it was I was tired of the never-ending Switch friend request from it. Every time I see a notification from Nintendo on social media
It's
or
from
anywhere
Miitomo.
about Miitomo,
Oh, yeah.
I'm always like, who is still playing this? But then
Yeah.
I realized, like, we don't exist in a vacuum. Like, Yeah, it's Dorney. There are people that don't have a 3DS, they don't have a Switch, you know?
Yeah.
If you just have a phone, and you want to play some Nintendo stuff, like, sure, jump in there. But they're constantly adding new hats and clothes and things to do that in that game.
To Ian's question, first of all, nobody knows when March of 2017 is. Nobody can put a pinpoint on that. There's no way to know that. But I will say that, yes, there are games missing from their original plan.
Yeah.
Do I want to see Animal Crossing on mobile? Yeah, because I think that's probably the most game geared towards mobile that Nintendo has in their sort of pantheon. Do I want to see a Zelda game? No, not
I don't
really.
think the Animal Crossing thing is going to be a game, though.
Match 3?
I know. I think it is an app because the way they've talked about it, they've said that it will be able to connect to your other Animal Crossing games. So to me, it's an item management thing, or it's like, here's your home on the go. Like, I don't think it will be here's your full town.
But to what, you think it'll be connected to the next Animal Crossing
That's
game?
what I assume. And
or like New Leaf?
Well, I would assume it's connected to the new one, and that's why we haven't heard from it in a while.
I feel like their mobile initiative in general
I could be wrong.
is something that sort of spiraled out from the lack of success that they saw with the Wii U, and they needed a sort of quick fix to monetize their entire company from a different angle.
Sure.
And I think it worked very well then. I think that in 2017 and 18 and going further, seeing games go exclusively to a phone when we're all sitting here with a Switch that we adore, that's selling incredibly well, feels a little puzzling.
And maybe that gave them
a little redundant.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I totally agree.
But we know their mobile games are supposed to drive people to play Switch games.
Yes.
Sure. That's the idea. So they should, by that definition, be kind of simpler, and I don't think more accessible, but they're trying to make them more accessible games. I don't think Mitomo is
I do want them to nail that thing that like everyone has always tried to nail since the advent of smartphones, where doing something on the go on my phone feeds into the stuff I'm playing on my home console or my handheld. Very few
Animal Crossing Island situation where you can download it on your GBA.
That's a great idea.
That would be
very few developers can actually nail that. There's all these companion apps and like smartphone, sort of like spin-off games and stuff like that. Shadow of War just launched. But they don't always feed in the way I want them to. But if I can like get furniture for my Animal Crossing town on the fly in some match 3 puzzle game in Animal Crossing mobile, hell yeah.
Well, Splatoon 2 did a little bit of this with the Switch app that allowed you to buy exclusive clothing from the Nintendo Switch app that you would pick up in game. I will say, we got to move on here, but I will say that Nintendo has done a very good job of supporting the games that they have released. We just saw a Super Mario Run update. Fire Emblem Heroes is updated all the time, like all the time. And Pokemon Go is Niantic, obviously, but they've also done a great job of keeping up, adding new raids, adding new Pokemon. Andrew Goldfarb, friend of the show, is flying to Austin to catch a Pokemon, like a crazy person. Like a crazy person. Yep. Hit us with another one.
Giordano asks, "Hey guys, I'm a big Nintendo fan. I follow you every week. Your show is absolutely great. Thank you. Since you were talking about how the first 6 months of Switch have been, I think we cannot ignore the fact that it still hasn't had a way to connect to Bluetooth headphones. As a commuter and iPhone user by headphone jack, and he meant like by headphone jack, and given that the console is meant to be played on the go, I still think this is a necessary feature that you simply cannot skip on a 2017 device. But apparently, not as many people are complaining about it as its absence as I thought they would. I'm loving the Switch anyway, but we need to put more emphasis on this." Winky face. I think he answered his own question. He's like, I love it anyway. So it's like basically we're putting up with it because it's like it sucks, right? Like I wish we could. And I've seen workarounds here in the office. Mike Oransky, who's one of our producers here, bought one of those sort of like it's sort of like a big clunky rabbit ear thing that just sticks at the top of your Switch that works as a Bluetooth adapter. It's not sleek. It should be built in. It's not there. It is for your controllers, which are odd, but it's just not there for headphones. So I'm hoping it's something they can patch. But in the meantime, I'm happy to plug in and play games, and I'd rather not boycott the entire system over it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel Giordano's pain. I think especially living in a commuter city has that effect on people. Like I too have an iPhone 7. I don't have the right jack for my Switch. I think that the biggest concern here is battery life, right? Like I think just judging how my phone chews through battery power when Bluetooth is enabled and I'm using Bluetooth headphones.
Think about that. That's a really good point.
I mean, the Switch already has like a 2 to 3 hour battery span. If you throw Bluetooth on top of that, you're looking at like, will I make it to my commute like before my Switch dies?
Right.
So I think that it's a trade-off, It's like 6 of one, half
We're
of
going to have those
other.
iPhone dongles for the rest of our lives just so you can have the thing going both.
It's true. Yeah.
It's really silly.
Well, guys, that's all the Nintendo news that we have this week. So tell us where we can find you guys.
I'm on Twitter at Agent Bizzle. I'm also on Beyond, Up at Noon, all the other fun shows we do here.
Yeah, I make regular appearances on Game Scoop. check in for the 20 questions. It's a really fun game we play where we guess an old game.
That's right.
Or a new game. And I'm at Samuel_IGN on Twitter.
Oh, also, I wanted to mention you're on this week's episode of Retronauts talking about Super Mario Sunshine, and it's a really great episode.
Oh, cool.
It's a lot of criticism thrown that way, but I do feel like
I like Sunshine. So at the end, they're like, I kind of pulled for it for a while, but yeah.
If you guys don't
There's
listen,
a lot of easy ways to criticize it.
Yeah,
Retronauts is a great show.
I was gonna say, if you don't listen to Retronauts, have a listen because they do killer episodes on all topics, but they especially drill down on Nintendo stuff. Really
and they're part of the family. They were at 1UP, and then they were at IGN for a while, and then now they're doing their own thing as a Patreon. So indie
this
boys.
has been our Retronauts Appreciation Podcast. Jonathan, where can we find you?
You can find me at JM Dornbush on Twitter and on my Riverdale fan podcast, which doesn't exist yet, but hopefully
River
will someday.
Dudes.
No, you've got Dale.
Oh, that's good. That's much better. I'm
stand
at,
up, please.
where's my camera? There we go. I'm at Zacharias D. You can find me on Twitter there. I'm here every week on NVC. Next week, Pear will return triumphantly, hopefully with some news from Germantown.
Guys, I got
and
one.
his triumphant
Dude, you're
king.
getting a Dale.
Very good.
Ooh.
Right on. Well, that's it for us, and we are out of here.
See ya.
Get the thing.